Greetings, I'm Erica Collins, Global Real Estate Investment Specialist here in Miami, Florida. And I wanted to start out today's webinar by just sharing a little bit something about me that you might not know already. Why did I get into this thing called real estate in a city that has thousands of realtors? It definitely wasn't because I wanted to sell homes. It had everything to do with philanthropic projects that my husband and I have gotten into over the past years. In 2010, my husband, former Marine, was invited to go to Haiti when they had their earthquakes, and he was asked to go down as a means to rescuing the children off the streets and bringing them to safe housing. And so he did that, and that started his heart and desire to save children from human trafficking. And so fast forward to 2013 when we met, I also had a heart for human trafficking, rescuing, and so we connected on the friendship basis of how do you do this? How do you get into this? What does this look like? And through that, we partnered with other organizations that have rescued children globally from this horrible tragedy that happens across the world. It's been no secret that it happens in every single country, and it crosses multiple income levels from the extremely poor to the extremely wealthy. And so part of who I am and what I do is in response to wanting to be a player in that game of helping rescue children, helping rehabilitate children and women and whomever may be in these situations. And so that's honestly why I started my bachelor's degree. I started out in international business management, and my first thought was I want to just help other people learn how to do other jobs. One of the most horrific stories that my husband came home with after doing one rescue was that there was women that were actually the key traffickers for children in this specific country where he was rescuing. And to me, being a mom, especially a mom of girls, that shattered me. I couldn't even believe that a woman would be capable of doing something like that to another child. And when I started to understand the extreme poverty in other areas of the world, I started realizing that they really think they have any other choice than to traffic other children and humans. And so my whole being just wanted to start being a resolution to that process. I wanted to either help them create businesses so they can do something besides human trafficking, or to help enhance the economy in some way. And so when I was finishing out my bachelor's program, we took a class on community development, and it entailed an entire section on real estate development. And having been a contractor's daughter growing up, I've always been around construction, and then going into railcar manufacturing as one of my first professional careers. I really loved the development process. And so when it was talking about real estate development as a means of enhancing the community by being able to not only provide jobs, but safe housing, safe buildings, and bigger infrastructure for places, it really sparked me. And so 3 months shy of getting my bachelor's degree, I saw a program here in Miami for international real estate, and it was a master's program at FIU. And I told my husband, I said, hey, I know that I thought I was almost done with this school thing, but there's just one more thing I know I have to do. And so I went on to get my master's in international real estate because I wanted to figure this thing out. I wanted to figure out how to develop jobs and housing in safe places for people across the world. And so starting right here in our own home country, we still continue to support and help out organizations that are rescuing both domestically here in the United States and internationally. So that's really my biggest why. And it sets up the foundation for helping you understand why I'm choosing to discuss this country that I'm personally excited to watch because one thing that I have discovered with the whole discussion on human trafficking is that it's really extreme poverty and lack of education that forces people into that situation. And so to rescue is going to be a non ending thing. To rehabilitate people will continue to be non ending. And what really needs to change is the change of culture around the whole idea of trafficking, making it incomprehensible for people that currently think that something like that is okay to do to another human being. We need to equalize our humanity, and the loss of humanity that happens when someone is trafficked is the greatest tragedy that human civilization can do. So that brings me to sharing with you what I have been researching a lot of lately. It has come to my attention that Burkina Faso, Africa, has been going under a major revolution, and it's really engaging to watch everything that's happened. And I'll put this little side note here. I do understand that the president of Burkina Faso is controversial. There's people on one side that think he's unethical, and there's people on the other side that support and cheer him on. And without going into the polarizing debate of whether he is a good human or a bad human, he's changing a country. And for the sake of that is the reason why I'm deciding to talk about this on this webinar. So I hope you can stick along and give me some really good feedback on what your thoughts are. I would love to have more conversation and dialogue on this. It's a really deep subject that it's really going to be a big deal in the near future if he continues to succeed with his development plans of his state. Country. So for those of you who don't know, Ibrahim Traore is a military leader who in 2022 took over Burkina Faso by a coup. And he has been the president of Burkina Faso ever since. And since 2022, he has been able to expand the infrastructure by leaps and bounds. He's putting roads across the whole country. He's building factories. He's hiring men in the military to watch over the agriculture. Burkina Faso is in the Sahel region, which means it's in the Sahara Desert. And we've always seen Africa from a distance as a place where it's untillable, it's infertile, and there's nothing that has been able to be grown there except for the mining expeditions that have taken the minerals and the ores out of the land. And Ibrahim Traore has taken that mindset and flipped it on its ear. He now is getting the country to where it's sustainable with agriculture. They're creating factories where they're mining the agriculture and replenishing it into the country as its own finished products and goods and creating them as exported goods. He's also, as I mentioned before, he also is hiring women to help with this process. And going back to what I said about human trafficking, civilizations like this, where they've been war-torn and impoverished for so long, the quality of life for women and children has been horrible. Women are notoriously mistreated, as well as the children, and oftentimes put into situations that they don't need to be in. And so to see that he's raising up his country and he's asking everyone for their help, it's pretty amazing to me to watch from this side of the world, where all I've ever seen growing up was how impoverished and challenged they are in Africa. He created a dam that helps to irrigate the land so that they can have rice paddies, they can water the fields that they have growing there. He's brought in resources with farming goods and materials where they can farm the land much easier and faster, and he's got it on track to become self-sustaining. I saw a report the other day that he's also beginning to train soldiers from other parts of the country so they can help him to get his country under management, they still have at least a quarter of Burkina Faso where it's still heavily war-torn, and activist groups are still being violent and causing a lot of problems there. And he's working really hard to eradicate all of that. And so it's really amazing to see everything that he's doing and the amount of speed that he's doing it at. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this in the history of our civilizations, really, at least not in my recollection. In 4 years, all of this is just happening so fast. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he continues, how sustainable what he's doing is going to be. He's definitely a target. He's got multiple death threats against him, multiple attempts to take his life and overthrow what he's doing. And I'm really looking forward to seeing his success in raising the country up to where it should be, because here we are in 2026, and of all the countries, why has Africa been the one that's been left behind? And so with all the war and everything going on in the East, I think this is a hidden subject that should be paid attention to. And so that brings me around to my next question for you. So why do I care? Why do you care? Why is this something that we need to be paying attention to? Because the more infrastructure that Ibrahim Traore brings to Burkina Faso, the further along that country becomes in being an investment opportunity. With the that he's building, it also creates an opportunity in the future for real estate development and investment. He's trying to be self-sustainable. He's building it up in such a way that he doesn't need to rely on anything except his own country for their revenue. Why this is important to us is, I don't know if you're aware, but Africa is an investable location beyond just the minerals and the ores that we've historically heard about being taken from the land. Nigeria is a huge hotspot for international real estate investing. They've got a lot of development going on down there. The current president, Tinubu, is very real estate friendly. Burkina Faso, it's on track to become that way. Not now, but in the future. And I say not now because obviously with real estate investing, we want to make sure that our properties are in a safe environment. As he progresses along, it'll be really interesting to see how the real estate development starts to grow up around Burkina Faso. He's also partnering with other region, creating like a NAFTA, where we were able to trade within each other without tariffs and all the excessive fees. He's created something like that within the northern region of Africa. And so to see him develop his government in such a way that it's opening their area up to complete independence and industrial revolution, really, it makes it possible down the way for real estate investors, especially those living in Africa already, to consider putting investments into real estate and especially in industrial real estate in Burkina Faso. That would be the biggest highlight, I would say, at least as of right now, where industrial investments would be the key factor that he's doing. But down the road, it'll eventually lead to other opportunities for maybe multifamily, maybe just single family. Who knows? Who knows what the options are going to be if he succeeds in his quest for this. And so this is definitely a place I'm going to continue keeping my eyes on, because not only is the enhancement of a third world country something that is so beneficial to the people and something that we should want to participate in, but it also enhances the local economy for those that have lived in such treacherous conditions where none of us should ever want to live or need to live or have to live, but they've been forced to live there because of extreme poverty. And so I'm looking forward to following the conversation on human rights for the women and children there. I understand, like I said earlier, that the women are helping in a military capacity on watching over the agricultural fields, and hoping that as everything progresses, that they also include women's and children's rights in part of their development plan so that the women over in Africa can live a healthy, happy, and safe life. So these are all my thoughts for now. I know it could be a very controversial issue, but so is human trafficking, and it's not one that I'm willing to stay quiet about. So I'd love to hear your input and get some feedback. What are your thoughts? Do you know about this? What are other countries that you've been looking at that maybe would be an opportunity for real estate investment? Or what do you think about Africa in general? Did you even think this could be possible? I would love if you would subscribe and share and check it out for yourself. There's lots of videos out there on Burkina Faso and Ibrahim Traore and his journey in developing this country into something beyond what it has been. So comment, share. Thank you. I appreciate you watching.